How do you think crypto will be in the next 10 to 20 years?
I think crypto's only evolving, and it's evolving in a positive way. We just saw this week, I think, in fact, yesterday, that the entire kind of bank-to-bank transfers here in England had been completely stopped, right? Because you're dependent on a centralized server and on a centralized system, and if that thing fails, your entire system is compromised. So you now need technology that is decentralized, not decentralizing just opportunity, but decentralize the fact that problems and errors can take place and occur. And if you don't mitigate them, you can't expand. That's why technological advancement is important. When we look at money, money is merely a technological advancement. You look at coinage. When coinage was introduced, it was a better way of bartering, because if you wanted cows and I wanted water, right? What was the middle ground? There wasn't something that we could actually standardize. Precious metal standardized that. But then it was difficult to transport, and it was difficult to move. So we moved it to what? Bills. And now we're like, oh, well, we're too lazy with bills. Let me digitalize it. Well, now we're digitalizing it, right? It's the inevitable process in evolution of money. Who's going to be in control of it? So now you have different factions competing for what is going to be the digital money. And it's incredible to watch. So the question is, which digital money are you going to support? Are you going to support a decentralized ledger, a system that belongs to the people, or are you going to support the one that is run by the banks? That's why I basically practice what I preach. I don't keep money in the banks. I keep my money in my own possession, right? I keep my money under my own kind of management. I don't depend on a bank. When you deposit money into a bank, they don't keep it safe. They take that money, they invest it. The entire game is a scam. So once you understand basic financial literacy, you start comprehending these things, and you realize all the billionaires and all the rich guys, they have Bitcoin, all of them, from Peter Thiel to Elon Musk to Chamath. Like, all these guys, they're like, hey, this is good. This is a good thing. Who's saying that it's bad? The fucking government? Biden? Like, literally the people that are fucking you up. So you're not going to listen to them. You want to go to where the energy and the intention and the power lies. And the evolution of money is going to be, in my opinion, of the people. So I have to kind of fight for that. And Bitcoin happens to be one of those mediums of exchange, or at least one of the symbols that today we utilize to represent that. Is it going to be the future? Well, I would like to consider it, but Bitcoin can also be co-opted and psyoped by BlackRock. You know, they have infinite liquidity, which means they could pretty much buy a large percentage of the supply and control the price of Bitcoin through the ETF. So I don't know where that lies, but I would like to consider that decentralized money is going to be something extremely important. So that's a brief understanding of what I think about crypto.
What do you think about BlackRock?
I mean, at the end of the day, whoever controls the printers controls the world, and they control the printers. I mean, if you look at who the Federal Reserve goes to and who countries go to in order to get funding or in order to get investment advice, it's BlackRock. And that's just, they're the best player in the game. And it is what it is. You can be mad at it, or you can just realize how they're playing and realize that you're on the same chessboard. So when, Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, says, hey, I like Bitcoin and I like it a lot, you better be fucking listening because he sees something. So you either play with the players or you get played. And I just look at these individuals and I understand their nature. They don't give a fuck about me. Why should they? Like, honestly, they don't know me.
Nobody gives a fuck about anyone.
Exactly. So when you look at that perspective, I'm like, okay, it's player versus player in that sense, because they are playing certain games, but simultaneously they also control the news, which means they're playing narratives. So you need to understand how they're playing. And once you open up your eyes, you can see some patterns, and through pattern recognition, you can identify where the world's headed. That's why you can see crypto cycles, ebbs and flows. You can see the ebbs and flows in the markets, and you can understand trends by understanding people, by understanding company, by understanding what they stand for. And you align all these things together and you can make a comprehensive thesis.
When you talk about patterns, what sort of patterns are you talking about? Patterns that's been here for hundreds of years, thousands of years, millions of years. We look at the thousands of years, the same patterns every 10 years, 20 years, with new plagues, new destruction, new wars, more money, everything's greed. What patterns do you see? Do you see patterns of life, or patterns what's going to happen to then what to invest into, or just patterns of...
Do you want me to give you a crazy pattern?
Yeah, let's go.
I'll give you a crazy pattern that I've basically been deciphering probably over the last year or two. And it has to do with how Central America and South America is taking a new form. So if you look at World War I and World War II, prior to that, we had the Spanish flu, right? And so we have a Spanish flu, we have a swap of currency because we have the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 get introduced, and we have 2 world wars. And then we have basically this fight against what? Communism, right? We had the fight against drugs, the fight against terror, but back then it was the fight against communism. So what happened? We saw a massive overthrow in South America and the installment of right-wing dictators and right-wing governments like we're seeing now. But the question is why? Now, when you begin to look at how the IMF works, which is the International Monetary Fund, they are what the economic hitman, a book that I read, he used to be one of these jackals for the IMF that would go and do broker deals with governments, loan them money in exchange for what? Resources and assets and collateralized land and things of this nature. So what would take place? A disaster would roll around, natural disaster or planned disaster, either one. Natural coup or planned coup, either one. Point is, something would take place where the government would need money or resources. The IMF would come in and say, hey, here's a relief package. But attached to the relief package, you have stipulation A, B, C, D, massive interest. And obviously, the IMF can never default. They can never default. So what do they have to do? They have to overthrow. So what you do is you take a country into a massive pattern of debt. You can see it in Argentina with left-wing governments taking and basically stealing everything for about 50 years. The country now is in massive debt. And now you have, within, 30 days, a right-wing government installed, all the deficits removed, right? So all the debt instantly removed so that now you can pay back to the IMF the debt. So you're seeing a cycle, a 100-year loop cycle of these big entities that control money and money supply coming into disaster and offering relief, quote unquote. And through that relief, being able to nationalize and control a country, which is crazy. So now you're going to see through South America, pretty much all the countries adopt a right-wing perspective, which initially might become benevolent. It'll be a good kind of transition, but eventually you're going to see a big clasp down of right-wing push to pay off any sort of debts and to nationalize assets. It's taking place. That's why you see the selling off in Argentina, for example, of the Argentine Airlines, which was a nationalized asset, or the YPF, which is the gas station that belonged to the government. They're selling all these things to private companies, which is fine. But the point is, these are different patterns that when you begin to realize, you can identify. So now Argentina is a great investment opportunity because they're about to be in surplus. They're about to start making money again. Is it risky? Yeah, but is it a 10-year play, 20-year play? For sure. So you'll be seeing me buy some land in Patagonia and get a ranch. Maybe not like you up in Scotland, but that's the perspective, bro.
Everything's a risk.
Yeah, everything's a risk.